Spencer Su here, tech realtor of the Bay Area. I wanted to cover how people are ultimately deciding whether they should or should not sell at this time. And if they do, what would be my strategies to sell given the shelter in place here in the Bay Area? Things are still moving, and people ask me all the time, like, how long would this be? What will happen with the market? The reality is this, and it was always this, even when the market was booming or the market was going down. The answer is, I don't know. And anyone that will tell you they really know doesn't really know anything. Let's just be clear. No one knows what will happen in 3 months, in 6 months, never mind a year. What people do know is right now and maybe the next week or so, depending on how things are trending and what is going on. And so how do we determine that? So at the end of the day, for the individual, for all of my clients or even future clients, if they're considering to sell, it goes back to the motivation. Are you trying to time it at the top? The reality is still the prices are still fine. They're still fairly high relative because they could drop. You just never know. And it depends on what is your timeline. Like, can you wait 3 months? Can you wait 6 months? Can you wait a year? Is it 5 years? That has a lot to impact and do with your decision whether you decide to sell now or you decide to wait, because no one will know what will happen later on, right? So that is very important to understand. Is the reality is no one can predict things, but you can look at several data points of what's happening right now and then make a decision based off of all these other motivations if it makes sense for you to sell at this time. Now, here is some of the latest data in San Mateo County over the last 7 days. I'll have it posted right here. You can see several things. There is currently 433 properties on the market. Over the last 7 days, 46 were new listings. 102 were changed to sold during this time. So things are still closing of escrow. And then you can notice that there's 24 that are contingent and 23 that are pending. So the contingent figure is definitely higher than before. That is absolutely there because, quite frankly, most people cannot even see the property with the shelter in place. So there may be some contingencies related to actually viewing it once hopefully the shelter in place lifts next week, or there may be different loan and appraisal contingencies because of the credit marketing tightening. That's just to be expected given at this time. But the key thing to note is that properties are still moving, they're still selling, we still have very low inventory, but it's also just to have an understanding of what the reality is at where we're at right now. So if you're to sell, what would be the things that I would recommend and I would suggest you do in terms of at least giving you the best chance? Like at the end of the day, from a realtor's perspective like myself, on the buy side, which I'll cover via video tomorrow, there's a specific strategy that I would have in mind. On the sell side, I would also have a strategy because your goal is to ultimately maximize your chances of getting the house sold regardless of the condition and the situation that you're at, either external or related to your home that you can actually control. So what are some of the things to do to be able to sell a home? Do all the reports. I know most of the times people do it, but do as much of the reports, including inspection reports, termite reports. Make sure there's no questions that an individual would have to have any sort of doubt, right? So do all of those. Most of the times people are doing it, but even certain things like even roof inspection reports, which may not be always done in the past, consider doing all of the reports so there's less questions from a potential buyer. The next is related to high quality images and high quality photos. This is the most important time to do it than ever, because in the past people can just look at some photos, they may not be too impressed, but they can at least go watch it and go look at it in person. But now that's a lot more limited. So you only have one shot, so you better come up with your best photos. So make sure they're professional, not just high quality images, but also incorporate other things that were not there before, like video tours, video walkthroughs, 3D tours, and the last but not least, Matterport. So Matterport is the concept of being able to do a 3D scan of a property. Now this is more critical than ever because depending on your property, this is extremely valuable. So consider doing that, as that option is very critical for individuals to at least get the most feel that they can of a property without having to do a physical walkthrough. So those are some of the things to do. The other things to is really important at this time is obviously being more digital. So as I mentioned, all those different things from a photographer perspective, from a social media marketing perspective. I mean, there's no more critical time than ever before for that to occur. So keep that in mind. Others, be flexible. I mean, you have to understand now is not the same as it was 3 weeks ago. Just 1 month ago, we're in a very different time. Everything was selling within one weekend, multiple offers. That's just not the current reality. Be pretty happy and glad to get at your asking price, which is hopefully fair market price, with 1 or 2 offers, right? And hopefully less contingencies if that is at all possible, which it is. There are many that are still going non-contingent based off of the other factors that I brought up. But be flexible, right? Be accommodative of working with buyers. It's all about leverage, and the leverage is not necessarily shifted all the other way, but it's not completely a seller's market at this time. Another is price it fair. I know many times people want to be greedy. They say, hey, look, this house sold 3 weeks ago. It sold for X dollar amount. The reality is it likely would not sell what it was 3 weeks ago, because keep in mind that is all old data, but it's also data that actually made the sell 3 weeks to a month before the close of escrow too. So that's really old if you consider all things equal. So that's a month and a half ago in terms of when those buyers made that decision in the competitive landscape there. So be more flexible and reasonable from that perspective, and be patient. Things may be slower than it was before. Like I said, things are not moving in one weekend. They can. If you price it fair, it's a beautiful property. It's still selling, right? But don't expect you're going to have five plus offers as it was a few weeks ago. So hopefully that gives you some advice and some tips as to the current layout of the market. It's not a bad time per se. There are still ways to do it, but it's best to be mentally prepared so you have the right expectations of the journey that you will go through. Of course, I will help you throughout this entire process, whether you decide to sell now or decide to sell 3 months, a year, 5 years later. I'll still be around. So feel free to ask any questions. All we can do is use the current data and the short-term trends to be able to see what is available for you, but at the same time it goes back to why are you selling it to begin with. Those are the 2 factors for any seller at this time. Any questions, let me know. I will come out with a buyer's kind of process tomorrow in terms of how my buyers are actively looking, how they're making offers, and how they're being protected. So it's going to go a little bit of a different view, but that's the point of a realtor. You do what you can for the seller as best as you can, and you can do the best you can on the buyer, and every house is different. Let me know if you have any questions. Happy to help. Have a good day.